Hello, U.S. History class. So we have a lecture today on the Pacific Theater. Remember, there have been two fronts that we're fighting this war on. We have the European side and we have the Pacific side. Last week, we concluded pretty much the European theater. You will be getting a quiz in this Wednesday's lesson that you do need to take over the Holocaust. Pretty easy. It is an open note quiz because I can't make you guys not use your notes. So it's an open note quiz. So hopefully everybody will do really well. But we're going to talk about the Pacific Theater now, and we're going to move on to the Pacific Theater. Just like we normally do with notes, you do want to take notes because these notes are going to be helpful for our test that we're going to be having. And again, it'll be an open note test. So that's really good. So make sure you're taking notes. I'm going to switch my screen here to my lecture, and let's go ahead and start this lecture. So after VE Day, Victory in Europe, we were still fighting in the Pacific. So it's not as if we were just fighting in Europe and then we moved to the Pacific. We were at this whole time in the Pacific, just the bulk of our forces were in Europe. So when the European war ends, we can now transfer our forces into the Pacific and really kind of go after Japan. So our strategy through this whole time, and now is going to ramp up, was to do something called island hopping. So our idea was, remember how Japan had taken up over a bunch of islands to try and create their empire? That's exactly what we've been doing, is we've been hopping to island to take those islands back. So island hopping is moving through the Pacific and selectively attacking Japanese-held islands and taking those areas back. This includes islands like the Philippines, which will eventually become one of our territories. Now, as soon as the European theater ends, we're able to amp up how many soldiers we're sending to the Pacific, and therefore we're moving, as this map shows, kind of closer and closer till we get to Japan. That's the idea. So there are two major battles that happen. Let me move this so you guys can see this. Two major battles that get us very close to Japan. And those two major battles are the battles of Iwo Jima and the battles of Okinawa. And on your extra credit movie guide list, you could watch a couple of movies about the taking of those islands. I think Letters to Iwo Jima or Letters from Iwo Jima is on that list. These two islands would be major in our taking. If we can take those two islands, let me move this up. There we go. So I'm not like falling. Well, maybe I'm just going to fall. So if we can just take those two islands, that'll be huge. Simply because that's going to be where we're going to base any kind of land attack if we're going to do that to Japan. So those two islands had a lot of casualties. Japan was not going to give those up easy. This is where we start to see a lot of the kamikaze action, Japanese air pilots sacrificing themselves to hit our destroyers. So the Japanese are not going to give up very easily. We understand that this is going to be something that is either going to be a really long war or something major is going to have to happen. Let's go to the next slide. So let me side note as to what's going on here. The Manhattan Project. So the Manhattan Project was the code word for the creation of the A-bomb, atomic bomb. And here we have a picture of Einstein. And maybe some of you know who this is. This is a guy named Robert Oppenheimer. Okay, so we'll talk about what Oppenheimer did. So Einstein, remember, he had fled Germany knowing that Hitler was coming after the Jews, and Einstein was Jewish. So he fled Germany fairly early in 1930 something, 33 maybe. And Einstein had been working on in Germany basically a formula where you can split atoms. Atoms are what make matter. And splitting atoms is this micro, I guess you could say, biological, chemical type of idea of taking an atom, what makes us up, and splits us. And that creates an energy that is unprecedentedly known. That's a whole thing you can ask your science teacher about. But so Einstein writes a letter to FDR, and he says to him, hey, basically been working on this formula. Basically, I've been working on this concept that we could possibly create this really powerful bomb. And since I've been working on it in Germany, I know that Germany is working on this too, which would be really bad because at this time in the 30s, the Nazis are up on the rise. Why we saw the Nazis as a more viable threat than the Japanese when we start the war. And so Einstein writes this letter to FDR and he says, look, this is what's happening in Germany. You guys need to start working on this. And I can give you the formula, but I'm not going to do this for you because I know what this means. I know that if you guys create this, which I'd rather you create it first than Germany, but I know if you guys create this, this means thousands of lives will be lost because I know what this bomb can possibly do. So FDR starts this project, his very secret project called the Manhattan Project, basically trying to devise the A-bomb. And he can't get Einstein to do it. So he hires this other scientist. His name's Robert Oppenheimer, or J. Robert Oppenheimer. He went by his middle name. And Oppenheimer says yes, and he will work with Einstein in figuring out like the formula, okay? But Einstein's not going to work on this project. And so FDR tells nobody about this project. No one, not even his vice president, okay? So let's leave that there. So FDR basically sets up a lab in the middle of the desert, middle of nowhere of New Mexico, in a little area called Alamogordo, New Mexico, way down south. You have to go past Santa Fe, past Albuquerque. We're talking deserty area of New Mexico. And that lab is where the first atomic bomb will be tested. Now, remember, we started this project right at the beginning of the war, of World War II. In 1938-ish. In 1945, July 16th was the very first time we're going to test it. We're going to test, we've actually created an A-bomb, a smaller version of an A-bomb. We test it in the desert of Alamogordo, New Mexico, and it works. It works. We have no idea of the long-term effects. We just know, man, that was really explosive. So by this time, FDR has passed away of polio. Okay, remember FDR passed away back in I think it was March or April of 1945, so just a few months ago. So Oppenheimer calls Truman and says, the Manhattan Project is a go. And Truman goes, what? What's this Manhattan Project that you're talking about? And Truman's, Oppenheimer's like, this is a project to create the most lethal bomb in the world that has ever seen. And Truman goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. So Oppenheimer has to brief Truman because FDR never told anybody about this secret lab in the New Mexico desert. So now Truman has a huge decision. Remember, the war in Europe is over. Nazism is defeated. Hitler's dead. But we're fighting Japan. And now Truman has to make some decisions. Let's go to our next slide. So Truman is, this is one of the reasons he's one of my favorite presidents, is because he had some of the biggest decisions to make than any other president. Truman's this meek little guy. His name's Harry S. Truman. The S stands for nothing. His parents named him a middle name of S. So his name's Harry S. Truman. He's from Missouri. And he is got to make the biggest decision. This little guy has to make the biggest decision that pretty much man has ever had to make. So here's his options. We could use the bomb on a deserted island, one of those many islands that we're hopping around that doesn't have many people at all, and basically show Japan and say to Japan, yo, we have this bomb, and let me show you how powerful it is and what it could do to you if we actually decide to blow it up on Japan. And that's one option. The second option is that we don't use the bomb at all. We continue with our plan of island hopping. And since we've taken Iwo Jima and Okinawa, just invade Japan with our manpower and just fight a traditional foot war, which, remember, Japan never wanted with us, okay? Or we use the bomb. We use the bomb on Japan. So these are Truman's choices. And he has to make this decision. And as you can see, this is a pretty powerful and hard decision for him. Feel free to pause my video at any point if I'm going too fast and you need to write more. Okay. All right. So here's what he decides. A land invasion is going to mean a lot of American lives sacrificed. And we've already had a ton of American lives sacrificed, and we just want to end this war. And Truman will face a lot of scrutiny if the American people find out we invaded the land instead of using this bomb, and we sacrificed all those men when we didn't need to. So that's not going to work. We also, remember, we're pretty angry still at Japan. They bombed us in Pearl Harbor. So there's a little bit of tit for tat type of logic going on too. Okay, so there's that bitterness against Japan of, why wouldn't we use a bomb? Ours just happened to be a little bit more harsh than what Japan used on us in Pearl Harbor. And then the biggest reason why we decide to use the bomb is Japan's not surrendering. Japan's all in. Japan is full send. They've proven that. They are taking their pilots and sacrificing lives and major machinery that costs a lot of money to serve as, targeting bombs on our destroyer ships and things like that in the ocean. So if you're willing to do that, are you really going to stop anytime soon? So Truman does the best thing he can. He says, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to fly over Japan, continue our actual bombings that we're doing, not the A-bomb, but regular bombings. But we're going to fly a plane over Japan, and we're going to drop a bunch of leaflets, papers that have, something on them that say, we're going to drop a bomb on you if you guys don't stop. A big bomb. We have a big bomb. And so we drop all these leaflets. But come on, seriously. If you're getting leaflets dropped on you that say, we got a big bomb, you need to surrender, are you really going to surrender? Do you really believe it? Or is it propaganda? Okay, so we do that. Japan doesn't stop. Okay, so the bomb. Let's talk about why there was two. Okay, so the bombs. This is where I would love to be passing out animals to you guys. I'm sorry that I can't. Let's go on. So Truman decides we're going to bomb Japan, but let's not bomb cities that are heavily populated. Like, we're not going to go at Tokyo. We're going to go at areas that have high industrial production. We're going to go at areas that produce airplanes, that produce ammunition, all of those things that would hurt the Japanese war effort if they continue. Because again, remember, we've only exploded one of these bombs, really, and it was a smaller bomb, and we don't know what the destruction is. We haven't tested this much. We're like, let's just do this, okay? So we choose a city called Hiroshima. Hiroshima is an industrial city. So August 6, 1945, the Enola Gay, which is the name of the airplane, with I think it was 2 or 3 pilots. You'll be watching a video, and that'll probably have more of the information that's exact, because I can't remember it. Go over Hiroshima, and they drop the first bomb. The first bomb's code name was Little Boy. This is a uranium bomb, and for any of you that know chemistry, uranium is a highly radioactive bomb. It's made of a radioactive element where we're going to split those atoms, and that's going to cause this huge fission, and it's going to blow things up. Okay. So we dropped the bomb and killed about, our estimates, we don't know exactly, about 80,000 to 120,000 instantly. That's the key, instantly, because the long-term effects you're going to read in one of our oral histories is the long-term effects. Those numbers go way up. Okay. So we drop the bomb August 6th, and we wait. And we wait for Japan to surrender. And the video will show you the destruction of the bomb. It's crazy. I mean, you know, it was so powerful of heat that it just disintegrates everything, including people. Some of the, like I said, watch that video. It's a great video. It's a great hour spent. But we don't hear anything back. Japan doesn't surrender. What the heck? They're not surrendering. Well, let's think about that, first of all. They're not surrendering because they have no idea what hit them. Nobody knows that this bomb exists. Remember, our own president at this time didn't know this bomb exists until it was created. So they are in this, like, what the heck? You know, we just lost this city. We've lost thousands of people. What just happened? We have no idea. So basically, 2 days in essence, pass by, and we don't hear anything from them. So we think, oh, Japan's just being stubborn. They're going to continue fighting us, that type of thing. But really, it was more like Japan had no idea what hit them, and they didn't know that we had more than one. So we go after another city on August 9th, 1945, by the name of Nagasaki. This bomb is not a bigger bomb, it's a more potent bomb. See, if you know your chemistry, you know uranium has a solid level of radioactivity, but plutonium is even more. Okay, so the bomb's nickname is Fat Man, and they drop the bomb on another city, not as big of an industrial city as Hiroshima, but still a major strategic point. This is why not as many people were killed, even though it was a more potent bomb. 35,000 to 74,000 people killed instantly. Okay, and again, long-term effects, that's a whole other number. That number increases immensely. All right, so we dropped the bomb on Nagasaki, and now Japan knows, oh, they have these ridiculously potent bombs. This is not, we're not winning this. It wasn't just a fluke that they had one bomb and that was it. It wasn't God sending the apocalypse on Japan with Hiroshima, that this is the United States and this is what they have. So there's all your reasons. The other reason we have to take note of is that, remember on your worksheet how you wrote that the USSR will help us win the war in Japan after 3 months? They needed time to recuperate and gather forces again and then send them towards Japan. The other huge reason we decide to drop the bomb, that Truman says we need to drop this bomb now, is we don't want the USSR's help. If the USSR helps us, then now that solidifies them as an ally to us. And that's a communist nation. And we don't want to do anything with a communist nation that puts us hand in hand. So that is another huge reason that we dropped the bomb. And that's going to create a huge tension between the Soviet Union and the United States. We'll talk about that more next week. So we dropped that second bomb, okay? Again, feel free to pause if you need to. And with the dropping of the second bomb, we get VJ Day, Victory in Japan. Okay, VE, Victory in Europe, VJ, Victory in Japan. All right. August 15th, 1945, Japan accepts all American terms for surrender. And on September 2nd, 1945, the Japanese officially surrender and sign the Treaty of Surrender and Peace in Tokyo Bay on the Missouri ship. And remember, we talked about this a few weeks back. The Missouri was one of the ships that was present in Pearl Harbor when Pearl Harbor was bombed. It was being built. Okay. So kind of a cool little symbolic, like, here's what you did to us, and the ship was there, and here's how we're ending this, and the ship is there. So really cool. All right, guys, that's it. Do me a favor. If you have questions about this, put it in our discussion, okay? You can ask questions to start a new thread, like, Ms. Rivera, what happened here? That type of thing. I'm happy to answer your questions. Just start a new thread in our discussion tab, okay? Guys, miss you tons. I do have to say that's the fastest I've gotten through a lecture. But hopefully all is well. I'm going to jump out of this screen here. I'm not going to edit these, so you guys are going to see me like right at the end, just close things down. But let me know if you have any questions. Miss ya.